whip my hand back and forth, I whip my hand back and forth, I whip my hand back and forth. Whip my...
Here we go.
This tutorial is so important to me because this is easily one of my favorite horror movies ever, probably holding the #1 spot with The Shining, and it's probably the reason that I'm an FX makeup artist today. It was the first DVD I ever owned at age 11, which I know explains a lot, but I was a strange child, what can I say? Ever since then, I was interested in FX makeup until it one day became a job of mine. If you haven't seen the movie, I highly recommend you watch it. It has some of the most amazing special effects makeup you will ever see by the legendary Dick Smith, and it had people fainting in theaters and vomiting and all this crazy stuff because it was the most terrifying movie at the time. So go see it. Alright, let me teach you how to turn some heads. You won't be needing these anymore. The Exorcist teaches us that terrifying demons don't have eyebrows. Being a soulless ginger myself, I already have that in common with her, so I'm taking these off. If you have visible eyebrows, block them out first. Oh, and we won't be needing these anymore. Why are these on my head? What time is it? It's 11:30 at night. I have sunglasses on my head. Sure. Taking this Crown Brush Concealer Palette, I'm going to use the lightest shade that isn't white, the shade that is white, and this mint green all over my face to pale me out to the max and give me a slightly sickish tint. White as a demon. So, a little fun trivia for you while we're getting started. Apparently, a lot of strange occurrences happened on the set of The Exorcist. You know, normal things like sets burning down and cast and crew dying. So it was said to be cursed. Now, I don't believe in supernatural stuff, but I will say that some weird things happened when I was doing my research for this tutorial, like things falling in my room for no apparent reason, my phone making really strange noises, and most notably, some weird sounds that I found while watching the footage of this tutorial that otherwise have never happened. I don't know why. Maybe I should be worried? I don't know. But I decided to leave them in here for all you people who like to get spooked. Let's get possessed. Although the only possession happening inside of me is this pimple. Right here. The power of Christ compels you! Don't forget to pale yourself out in other places like the neck, ears, and chest. I'm also quickly concealing my lips. I'm using several different matte browns and burnt orange type shadows like these, and I'm using a fluffy brush to start messily putting a mix of all of those all over the eye orbital area. I'm doing the same thing with some dark gray and black shadows to darken the overall eye. Using what's left on my brush, I'm randomly dotting, sweeping, and patting that all over my face to break up the skin texture and to give the illusion of a little bit of transparency. Reagan definitely wasn't using a toner, so we can't look like we are either. I'm also scrunching my lips together and sweeping those brown and gray colors lightly in the center to emphasize the lines, and then using what's left on the foundation brush to go around the lip line again to make the lips appear smaller. You should start to look like you're getting ready for a hot date. Sexy! Then taking this dark red cream paint on a small brush, I'm using it to mark out where my cuts will be. I'm using several reference pictures of Reagan to place mine, but you can do as many or as few as you want. To build the cuts, you could use a ton of different special effects products for this, like silicone, gelatin, scar wax, which is the actual devil by the way, but don't get me started on that, custom or mass-produced prosthetics, etc., but I'm using liquid latex and cotton balls because it's a great medium if you're just starting out, or if you're more advanced. It's inexpensive and it's more easily accessible to most people compared to the other products. So for each cut, you want to start by layering down a layer of latex on one side of your cut mark. I recommend using a disposable sponge to do this. Then using a small piece of unrolled cotton that's roughly the length of your cut mark, lay that down right on top of the latex. When you have it in the general area, put a generous amount of latex over top of the cotton until it's completely saturated. It helps to use less cotton than you probably think you need to start, and more latex than you probably think you need when it comes to covering it. Generally, the more latex you use here, the easier it's going to be to shape it and blend it. Then using a small flat surface of any kind, I prefer a palette knife, I lift up the inside edge of the cotton, the side that's over the cut mark, and I smooth down the outside edge of the cotton so that it tapers nicely into our skin. Lastly, I usually put another generous layer of latex on top and blend out the very edges to really ensure that everything will dry as smooth as possible. Repeat these steps for the other side of the cut. Latex is great for new FX artists compared to silicone or gelatin for this kind of look because it dries much slower and it gives you more time to really sculpt the things how you want them. Just remember when you're working on the second side of the cut to make sure that you keep a line of separation in the center of your cut at all times, otherwise it could eventually dry shut. I use my palette knife, kind of like an actual knife, to keep the line clear. If you can master one little cut like this, you can do a whole face full of them with any shape. Repeat that everywhere you drew a cut mark. You can see here on the right side of my face, the cotton and latex is yellowed compared to the left side of my face, which I just finished. Unless you're using an airbrush, you absolutely want to wait until the cuts are dry and they look like the right side before you start painting them. You can't paint on wet latex with a brush. The paint job can make or break a good cotton and latex buildup, so take your time here too. I'm using my extremely messy zombie palette to paint this because I prefer using alcohol paints on cotton. Alcohol paints can only be activated with 99% alcohol. You can use water paints or cream paints instead, but alcohol lasts the longest and it won't transfer or sweat off. I'm using Midnight Brown on a Sigma FX5 brush to cover all of the bright cotton areas in a medium wash of color. You don't want to make it super dark or opaque, but you do want to make it slightly darker than your base skin color that you're working on. This is a really important step, otherwise it will be very difficult to hide the brightness of the cotton and to match it to your skin tone. Trust. Don't worry about making it super even either because this will all be bruised and discolored later on. Then taking a color that matches your pale base, which in my case is the color Rice Paper from the Zombie palette, I'm going over all the brown cotton spots we just covered. This may seem counterproductive, but I promise this is an easy way to even everything out into the skin. If you were to do this without the brown step first, the cotton would still appear whiter than your base color unless your base color was already as white as the cotton. Then using the color Blood Tone on a small brush, I'm getting all up in our cuts. While I'm at it, with the red, I went over some spots on my lips to make them look more cracked and bleeding. To add a little depth and realism, I'm using a little bit of black and midnight brown in a portion of each cut. This doesn't have to be really neat since we'll be filling this all in with scab blood later, but it's a good detail to add so that the cuts aren't too bright. Now using the colors Aged Blood and Bruise Tone, which are essentially an orange, red, and magenta, I'm lightly beginning to wash over and all around the cut areas to make them look irritated. If you're using alcohol or water activated paints, you can use a little paint to start and build up the color in layers as you need it, or you can add a lot of color in to start and thin it down with your liquid to where you want it. I did a little bit of both here. I also continued to break up the skin away from the cuts like we did early on in this video, again by dabbing and sweeping randomly in light washes of colors to keep the overall face looking patchy, transparent, and like a total unit. If you skip this, the areas with the cuts might look overly irritated and it won't mesh with the rest of the face and neck. When you've gotten to a good place, I usually like one of the last touches I do to be adding that light base color again to the very tops of the cut openings. Here I'm putting the color on opaque and then going in with alcohol afterwards to thin it and blend it out. This will make them look a little more raised and dimensional. Your finished paint job should look a little something like this. It's important to always take a step back and look at your work, and when I did that I realized that I needed to make my eyes a little bit darker still. So there's nothing fancy going on here, it's just a repeat from before. Now this isn't a Chucky tutorial, even though it's starting to look like one, so let's cover up this red hair. I'm destroying an old synthetic brown wig that has seen its day anyway. Would anybody like a tutorial on my haircutting skills? Anyone? Okay, fine. Let's not forget the bangs. And suddenly I've come down with a case of demonic sickness. No Exorcist look is complete without the appetizing pea soup looking projectile vomit. Am I right? Now, you could literally just use pea soup or some kind of wet mixture of edible stuff, but if you plan on wearing this for a full day or night and you don't want it getting everywhere, I would suggest using something that dries, like more latex. I'm mixing latex with this green goo I happen to have lying around, but any green makeup product can be mixed with latex to turn it green. Then, well, have fun. You're a demon who doesn't give a fluff about a little projectile vomit. Own it. Get it all over your mouth. Put it down your neck. Get it on your moo-moo, but know that latex will ruin your precious moo-moo if you do. I left some dried latex chunks that were already in this little bowl in my mixture, but not a whole lot because the vom in the movie was pretty liquidy. Yes, I analyzed it. Scab blood. Add it to the crevasses. Then dry your teeth off because they're gonna look a little different with all that stomach acid going past them. I'm using brown and black teeth stain. It tastes awful and it feels a little strange, but your only other option is to eat a handful of Oreos and just not get the crumbs out of your teeth. That sounds kinda delicious actually. Just to ensure our pea soup vom is looking pea soupy enough, I coated it with a medium wash of midnight brown alcohol paint. You don't necessarily need to do this if your mixture was already more of a brown green to begin with. Man, I'm just too sexy. I've never looked better. Tell me I'm pretty. Add some soul-sucking contacts and you're ready for a beauty pageant. Dang, girl. You must be dancing with the devil because you hot as hell. If you'd like to do a Glam&Gore style of this, it is possible. You'd be surprised, but I did it once for Halloween a few years ago, where I did all of this, but I wore a sexy little nightgown instead of this gross moo-moo. And then it was the Exorcist. And she was kind of glam in that way. You're welcome. Me after Taco Bell. Hashtag no makeup. You mother. What's the matter? Easy breezy beautiful. Cover. Ah, shoot. It happened. My wig is possessed. It flew right off my head.
I feel pretty. Oh, so pretty. I feel pretty and witty and bright. And I pity any girl who isn't me tonight. I feel charming. Oh, so charming. It's alarming how charming I feel. And you're my
Just girly things.
Yeah, dude.
I'm too sexy, beautiful.
That's how the actual song goes, so I'm not as impressed.
It's just appropriate. I don't have to change it because it's just appropriate. I'm too sexy, beautiful. You mother. That's what.
Oh god. It's always you and your nose ring. Oh, it's Mikey just as something with their nose ring.
Ah, shoot.
That was the giveaway. They took your signature.
Playgirl? Playgirl Exorcist? Your mother.
Make me want to throw up a little, baby.
What? There's only one way to get rid of demons, Chase. And that's Krispy Kreme. You down? How are you tonight?
You just seem like a crazy, creepy creep.
Excuse me?
Seem like a crazy, creepy creep.
I heard you.
Should probably warn you look terrifying.
Should I? Yeah, that's probably a good idea.
Anything else?
I just want to warn you that I look a little scary.
Okay.
I don't want you to be alarmed when I pull up.
It's totally okay.
Yeah.
I'm excited now.
Oh, good. She thinks I'm just having a bad hair day. 6:36. Yeah, I've seen scarier. Damn! I kind of wish you wouldn't warn so I could get my coworkers. Do you want to get your coworkers? I could say hi. Oh yeah. Just keep your head turned that way. Sure. Looks like she's in on it.
Hey.
Hey, how are you guys?
Hi there.
How are you?
Oh, you scared the hell out. Will you wake me up?
Morning.
Anyways, you look beautiful.
Thank you, so do you. Have a good night.
Bye.
I love how the one time I feel like I'm nervous enough about actually scaring someone, she goes, I wish you didn't warn me. And now we have donuts.
Donuts.